Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Hallé with Witness the Light Music, and I'm here again doing another post-production tutorial where I'm going to break down some of the ideas and some of the things and concepts that I've been working on recently. So, previous video I talked about the kicks and how I'm using Trigger2 with the kicks and how I'm also using Trigger2 with the snares. Now, this video I want to touch on how I use Trigger2 to actually give me another vibe with the hi-hats. I'm going to play the specific the producer's instrumental mix that'll be playing right now. So that's literally the hi-hat sample. You can tell that it's got maybe a little bit of some time shifting and some time stretching to it, but that's literally the whole entire sample, and that's what makes up the drums for in this case. Now, I did feel like I wanted a little bit more to these hats. So what did I do? Well, first, aside from my normal processing, I added some EQ. Just to clean up some of the EQ, the frequencies and the 2K and then maybe some harshness that I was hearing. And then I like this Haas effect here. Let's see what it does. Just changing the stereo width and making things a little bit wider. What I wanted to do was I wanted a little bit more transients. I wanted a little bit more just movement with the hi-hats. So what I did was duplicated the track. Again, exact same process. Created this hats and went into Trigger. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on how I'm using Steven Slate Trigger2 in order to trigger hi-hats to kind of vibe with what's happening here and to really make it work the way that I wanted it to work. So this is our sample that we're working on here. And then adding the hi-hats. Now I'll just leave the hi-hat. All right, so one of the big things that I learned was you want to make sure that the sample going into Steven Slate, even to Trigger, is at a proper volume. So this volume knob here, I increased the volume up to 11 dB. So if I have it at 0. So I went a little bit louder. So then now what happened was I had more of the transients of the actual sample come up in volume. So now Trigger can detect exactly what I wanted to detect and the fine details that I wanted to detect. Now this detail knob here works perfectly to help you decide what parts of the sample you want to be sampling your replacement here. So now that's the loudest part of the sample that's going to be replacing. Well, what if I want more? What if I want a little bit more to kind of go with the vibe? So, okay. What about if we go more? So that's what I was looking for. I was looking for something to go along with the hi-hats to give it more of a top-end vibe, a little bit more transient vibe that will pretty much increase the rhythm of the drums. So let's listen to what they sent us. All right, so I muted. You can see how much of a difference it made. Okay, so now let's go into some additional production that I did. Aside from just adding layers with Trigger, what I've done with some additional production was I just needed something that would be on rhythm of the music, but also that had enough transient information in order for me to trigger a sample, especially a hat sample. And I wanted some more hats because I felt like I was missing some rhythm. I was missing a little bit of push and pull, and hats are the best way to get that vibe. So here's what we have without the additional post-production that I did. So what I did was I literally went and I grabbed some of this snare and then I copied it down here, right? And I found the timing for it and I brought it over a little bit. And now I'm using the snare to sample a hat. Okay, so I'm using the snare transient information to sample a hat sample. Now, here we go. We got a couple hats here. We're choosing. Oh, I have to unmute that. There we go. All right. Now let's see what that was doing. So instead of having to literally write or go in and use a MIDI or anything like that, instead I just used Trigger, copied over the snare sample, the snare track, use that to trigger my hat samples, and voila, what do I have? I have an additional element to the drums that are adding that push and pull that I was looking for. All right, let's listen. All right, so you can literally hear now the hats, that open hat vibe is actually giving it more of a pull and push dynamic that I was looking for. And then I did a third trigger, and this one, what I chose was some open hats. So what I heard in my mind was boom, boom, tst, boom, tst. You know, that open hat kind of, my beatboxing is horrible. I haven't beatboxed in a while, but that open hat vibe. So let's see what happened there. So that open hat actually ended up being something that I use in a transition going into the first bar, the first hit of that second bar. Yeah, that's kind of like literally a cymbal. It is a cymbal, but more like a crash, right? So to give it a little bit of a transitional vibe. So let's see what this whole drum sounds like. All right, so now I'm gonna take away the trigger stuff. Let's just actually do this here. All my trigger stuff. Oh, my snares are still being triggered. So from pretty boring, maybe just basic drums to something that is has more push-pull dynamics. I think one of the things that really did it and did it really well was the additional hats that kind of added as that open and close kind of vibe here. Let's see what happens there. All right, guys, so pretty much that was it. I took some basic drums using 5 instances of trigger with some EQ, different delay, Haas delay plugin. I was able to turn some really slow, sleepy drums to something that was really going to work well with the performance that was given to me. So, all right, guys, hopefully that you learned something and that this was something that you can implement in one of your mixes and blow your clients away with your creativity and your desire just to do the best you possibly can. And yeah, other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you can, please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube machine there, and also like the video and share with all your production friends and all your engineer buddies. Okay, guys, keep mixing and do it all for the glory of God.